Okay, we ready?
Yeah, don't let that be too.
Okay, I believe we're all here. I'd like to call this meeting to order. My name is Michael Muller. This is the City of Scranton's Historical Architectural Review Board meeting for May 9th, 2024. Can we do a roll call?
I'm Katie Carney, the historian.
Bill Lesniak, Architectural Heritage Association board member.
Conrad Bosley, real estate broker.
Katie Gilmartin, member at large.
John Finnerty, solicitor.
Okay, we have a quorum, thank you. Our first order of business is a review of the April 11th minutes. All members should have a copy of that. If you had the chance to review it, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
There's a
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay. We have several applications for certificates of appropriateness. The first is for 326 Biden Spruce Street. This is an application for signage. And Katie, are you following this digitally for
I'm going to do my best.
our very large fan base?
You might need a little trouble shooting. So I have the application pulled up here. Scroll down to the photos.
So this looks like it is in the Hotel German, formerly the Manhattan Room. This space had several lives. It looks like it's being converted into an art and bookstore, and they're applying some vinyl lettering to the windows. I think given that they're non-permanent and pretty minor alteration, I don't see any issue here, but does anyone have anything to contribute?
No, I don't. Is that all it is?
Did that manage to put that on the screen right side up?
Oh, thank you, Katie.
So because they're on the exterior of the glass, that's what's triggering a HARB review. If these were on the interior, it would be considered an interior improvement. I don't think they list the color of the vinyl, but again, I feel like this is a minor alteration, so I don't take exception to it.
No, I would make a motion to approve 326 Biden Street, the letters on the windows.
I'll second that.
Second by Bill. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, motion carries. Losing track of myself here. Okay, next up, we have second certificate of appropriateness application for 315, 331 Franklin Ave. This is an application for signage. This property is the former Valor Federal Credit Union, now occupied by the county and I believe the Wright Center. And there's no one here to present that. That's Dottie, you want to? No. I do have some questions or concerns on this one. I think if we're looking at the first image, the signage over the portico, these are big, kind of large white letters. I think the intent here is to make this as visible as possible, but given the other signage that's planned for the facade, I think there's an inconsistency not only in font, but in color and material. I would like to see maybe there be a little more harmony there if possible. And without an applicant to discuss that with, I feel like I'm having a hard time approving this one, but I'll yield.
I agree. I think that if they were here and were willing to change the numbers to that same brushed silver, that I would happily approve it, but if not, I don't think so.
These are the two ones. I agree with, yeah.
The metal letters are 1 inch deep, and it looks like they're surface applied. I think the vinyl ones, and I'm not sure they specify the thickness.
1-inch brushed aluminum stud-mounted letters.
And the vinyl white numbers are only 1/2 inch thick, and I feel like all that's quite flat too, so if I were to make a recommendation, I would almost want those letters to be on standoffs and be of the same material, but Do we want to table this for the
Yeah, I think
applicant to
that's a
come
good
in?
idea. So I will make a motion to table this with the recommendation that they look at changing the 315 to being the same material that the other signage is going to be.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Katie, you just changed the material, not the size, is that?
I'm okay with the size
okay.
staying, yeah, because I understand they want to see it.
Right.
and technically, Conrad, I believe we only tabled it with a recommendation.
Okay.
So there's no true vote on
No, but
accepting
I
it.
just wanted to,
If the gentleman comes in next meeting, we can discuss all of the
oh,
details.
right.
Okay. Next up is 414 Spruce Biden Street.
Do we have pictures for this, Katie?
Let me see. Is this the one that additional photos were requested? For which additional photos were requested?
I don't recall that.
Okay.
This
I
was
could be making
received
that up.
April 26th.
I do not see any photos, and I recall an email from Druvy that said no photos had been provided for one of the applications, and that she had requested them. So if they came in a separate email, I am missing them, but I don't remember that.
For what it's worth, I believe this application is for the space currently used for the restaurant called Tequila. Is that right?
He owns the tequila, so I would assume.
I think it's it's 414, so it's on the end there.
Right.
So the application is to keep the awning frame and replace the fabric. Do we feel we have enough information to look at this, or do you guys want to request more information?
No picture, right?
There's no documents attached.
Good cover with terracotta, canvas is green.
So they're going from a green canvas over an existing frame with a terracotta colored fabric over that same frame.
I thought a picture.
Yeah, I wish there was a picture of that.
I
You
know I
want to
shouldn't have-
table it and request more information from the applicant?
I think so.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, it is this property.
Yeah, it's this-
Druvy
it's
said, I
green.
did not receive any pictures for this application, so I reached out to the applicant who said they would send the pictures, but I have not yet received anything. And that was on April 30th. So I think since that request was made and we don't have anything, I would make a motion to table this application until such time as we can review the photos.
Okay. Is there a second?
I will second.
That's Katie Carney. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay. The next application is for the address at 499 Mulberry Street. This is an application for window replacements.
Mulberry Towers.
Correct, Mulberry Tower, and there are photos.
Trying to bring those up.
I think this is another application with the energy program.
Generated.
I thought somewhere here was a quantity. Where did I see the
10,
quantity?
I think it's 10, but maybe I'm making that up.
No, you're right, it does say it here. So the project description includes replacement of 10 windows with a color and style to match existing. So I can't tell which 10 windows are getting replaced, but
We probably don't know yet.
in the packet are photos of the original exterior and
Yes.
interior.
You don't have this back.
They appear to be casement windows in a brown frame, and then also provided were some specifications from a company called Starmark Evo. I apologize, they're not casement windows, they're slider windows.
Would that also be bronze?
Yeah, maybe that's well, I can't tell.
Brown, but it's faded.
I'm just wondering where these 10 windows are located on it. Are they,
Right.
I think if it's the same color,
Yeah.
same size, I mean, it's a newer building.
Yeah, and if they're going to
No.
be the same,
Yep. I don't disagree.
I'm not able to bring this up, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Okay, is there a motion to accept this application?
I'll make a motion to accept the application.
I will second it.
Okay, all in favor?
aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, next, actually our last is revisit to address 336 Moyer Court. This was a previous application that was submitted, was it last month? 2 months ago.
2 months ago.
2 months ago.
And we had denied the certificate of application of appropriateness, and the matter was taken up by city council, and they have voted to deny, no, to approve. I forget exactly what they did. John, can you help me?
Yeah, let me try to summarize kind of how we got here. I believe the application was originally submitted by the University of Scranton to the HARB board in February. So at the February meeting, the board voted to deny the application, and the application was requesting permission to demolish the structure at that, on that site. Subsequently, they wish to appeal the HARB's ruling to City Council, which they're entitled to do under the administrative code. So at council's meeting, I believe it was on April 30th, they were presented with the issue to review, and they rejected HARB's denial decision, and they decided to send it back to this board for further action for issuance of the certificate of appropriateness in accordance with the administrative code, section 1848, subsection D2. And I believe I had submitted or circulated correspondence to everybody on the board outlining that procedure.
Yes.
So the request is for this board to issue a certificate of appropriateness based on their motion to approve the demolition of the project.
And I'm sure there's research I could have done on this, and I know the information, John, that you shared was very thorough. But can you explain exactly why? I mean, I understand that this has been appealed to City Council, but why must HARB give an indication that we've somehow changed our minds on this matter?
Very simply because that's what the code says.
Okay. So that's perhaps something we could discuss in terms of process at another time? Maybe?
Well, we could, to the extent that we could get the administration and city council to agree to amend the code to make this board not act so much in an advisory role and act with more authority, because the way the code is written now, the HARB board has authority over approvals. I mean, obviously, there's no reason to appeal an approval.
Right.
But once we issue a denial, the applicant has the option to pursue that with city council, and then city council essentially has the right to overrule the board. And even though it technically has to come back to HARB to issue the certificate of appropriateness, the board's hands are tied at this point.
Do we have any right or mechanism to clarify our position while still complying with the process? Because of particular concern to me after watching City Council's meeting the other night, I just watched it this afternoon, I didn't see it live. There was a bit of a perhaps insinuation that this building was unsafe and I don't ever recall that being a part of our discussion. So I feel, based on the discussion that took place at City Council, it almost seems as though the parameters of the application changed, which I don't imagine was the case. But I think it's important that this body clarify to City Council, and most certainly to the public, that we did not take an irresponsible action based on the information that we had before us.
Yeah, I think you and every member of the board certainly has the right to express your opinions as to, why you voted the way you did back in February. And even today, to the extent that you want to, put something on record to explain, your position as to why it shouldn't be demolished. But I have to come back to the code and tell you that, regardless of City Council's reasons and regardless of your reasons, you pretty much have to vote to approve the issuance of the certificate. But I hear what you're saying, and certainly you're in a very tenable position. Like what objective basis was City Council referring to when they decided this building is unsafe?
Right.
Was there some kind of inspection? They didn't cite any inspection. I believe what was said was somebody did a drive-by and it didn't look safe.
Right.
I didn't really see anything else that would, certainly nothing of an objective basis that would say the building was unsafe.
And Mike and I talked about this briefly, and I feel that I'm the person best in the position to say this, having absolutely no expertise in this matter at all. I think it was irresponsible of council to take the position that this building was somehow unsafe without verified information, considering the level of expertise my colleagues on this board have.
Yeah, and I mean, that's certainly a reasonable position to offer.
Thank you.
I don't think anybody here would disagree.
Attorney, can you clarify if this goes back to City Council, or with our issuance of a certificate of appropriateness, it just goes back through the licensing and inspections department?
Yeah, it does not go back to City Council.
Got it.
Once the certificate is issued by HARB, it would go to Licensing, Inspections, and Permits Department for the issuance of the demolition permit.
And can you clarify what inaction would look like?
Well, I guess inaction would mean that the board is not complying with the code, which I guess would put the burden on either the administration or council to take some kind of legal action to force the board's hand, so to speak, to vote on this.
The ordinance reads that the issue should be remanded back to HARB for reconsideration. Is reconsideration a redeliberation, or is it just solely accepting City Council's approval?
My interpretation is you have to, if council rejects a denial decision from this board, they remand it back for whatever reason, that this board is required to then approve the application for the certificate of appropriateness. And the specific language that I'm referring to is the last sentence of that section that I referred to. It says, thereafter the board shall evaluate the governing body's recommendations and revise its decision and report accordingly. And the most important word in that sentence is the word shall. It's not discretionary.
So the report, I guess, is why I was confused. So are we revising the report, and are we issuing that back to City Council? Or is that for our internal purposes?
No, you don't have to issue anything to City Council. I mean, it says evaluate the governing body's recommendations, which their recommendation is to approve the certificate of appropriateness application. revise your decision, where it says revise its decisions, that's this board's decision. So revise your decision and report accordingly. Again, it's, it's shall. Shall is not a discretionary term in the code.
Sure. Katie, I think you did a nice job of articulating the concerns. Obviously, my main concern is process and precedent, and I think we have followed a process here, and we haven't really encountered this as a board, this board. So I thank you for clarifying the process, but as precedent, my concern still is that we're taking a building down for reasons that no one fully understands. The applicant suggested the reason for demolition was rooted in opening up visibility to another building, which in my opinion is not a great basis to take something down. I think another argument was to create room for parking for, I think we did the math for 2 spots. Again, not a great reason to take a building down. And then the argument seemed to have morphed at City Council to discuss structural stability, which isn't rooted in fact. And I think another comment was on sellability. But I don't know if, Conrad, you're a broker. Have you seen any information regarding this for sale?
No, not at all. And my only concern with this was if that building remained there, by code, they could not have adequate ingress and egress to the parking lot that we approved by approving the demolition of the front building.
I see.
But they didn't bring,
That wasn't their concern.
that wasn't, well, they did, it would have been a point they could have brought forward, but by just saying it's not safe is just, it doesn't make it so.
Right.
Any other comments?
No, I find myself frustrated with feeling like we made a decision based on the beauty of the city and the historic importance of the building, and it was kind of just thrown back in our face, both by council not getting the information we were given, and also what feels to me only, as a lack of respect for the board and our decisions.
And I do think it's important, in the interest of fairness and clarity, to acknowledge that this was not a unanimous decision.
It was
and
not.
Councilman Schuster, I believe his concerns were more process-oriented, but I also know him personally and know him also to agree with the tenets of the HARB and our efforts here. So I'm sure that although his comments were more toward the timing and the process of this, I know he also is a historic preservationist at heart.
It feels like the channels to which we communicate to City Council exist in that report we provided them, which did not seem to make its way into any decision-making, but
Right.
I don't know if there's a more appropriate channel to keep open between us and council so that if another application comes before them, that this body is available for discussion
Yes.
or help interpreting or understanding our decision.
Yes. I think that's vital, because I certainly hesitate to talk offline with any of the people I know on council. I don't feel that would be appropriate when a decision is pending. So I think if there was an opportunity to create some dialogue when issues such as this arise, there must be an appropriate public vehicle by which to do that and have that conversation.
So I think based on everything we've been told, we're forced to call a vote on accepting a certificate of appropriateness for 336 Moyer Court, so.
I just do want to clarify one last time. I understand shall requires us to call the vote. Does it tie our hands in the way that we vote?
I believe the language does.
Does.
But we need not be unanimous.
No, we need not.
Send some
I'm not
protest
voting for it,
votes.
just so you know, I'm the
So
historian is not voting for it.
I will make a motion to reconsider the certificate of appropriateness for 336 Moore Court, acknowledging that HARB has not changed its position and remains committed to its opposition of the demolition of this building, but will comply with the code.
Fair?
I will second that.
Second from Bill. All in favor?
Aye.
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 No.
Aye, or no, I mean, I'm voting aye for no.
Okay, so motion carries 3-2. Right, there's 5 of us, yeah, okay. Very good. Thank you, guys. Next on the topic of discussion is board reorganization. Are we prepared to have that discussion?
I think we should. I certainly would make a motion to appoint Mr. Muller as our chairperson, if we're at the point that we'd like to have that conversation. I certainly appreciate Mr. Leonori's work on this board, and I hope I'm not speaking against his wishes, but I would imagine that this may not be a time he wants to continue this work in that capacity.
I would second Ms. Lawrence.
I don't think I have a choice.
Notice I asked.
Is this an acting role or is this actual?
Well, it certainly could be, and perhaps that's something we should consider until Richard is able to rejoin us again. So I will amend my motion to appoint Mr. Muller acting chairperson of the HARB.
Seconded as amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have another officer to appoint?
We discussed also an assistant, or a vice chairman and a secretary. So if we have other nominations for those roles, if everyone agrees that those are the appropriate ones, we can certainly make them at this time.
Did we have a conversation that the vice chair would also act as secretary in the event, or act as chair?
Pinch hit for either role, yes.
All right, are there any nominations?
I would be more than happy to do that. I don't feel I can commit myself to another role, but I can definitely be a backup dancer.
So is that for
If-
vice chair or for
if I'm,
secretary? Or is that
for
one
vice
position?
chair. I'm just putting that out there, but I'm also happy if there's someone else who wishes to do
I'll
such a
I'll
thing.
second that nomination.
Great.
Well, I don't know if I can, I think someone else
Oh,
should nominate
okay,
me.
I'll nominate Katie as vice chair. That is Conrad. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Katie, Madam Vice Chair, thank
Thank
you.
you.
And last is a secretary role. Are there any nominations? Who's holding the pen?
It's very sloppy.
Katie, would you be upset if I nominated you for
No, I
secretary?
wouldn't be. I would promise to get the notes in on time.
Well, then I nominate Katie Carney.
Okay, is there a second?
I would second that.
You guys got off easy tonight. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, does that satisfy the request from the city then?
I believe it does, yes.
I actually didn't
organize
see any communication on that, but it sounds like it would cover all
Yes,
bases.
Yes, we added the vice chair position because we do so often run into not having everyone in
Yeah,
attendance.
it makes sense, sure.
Okay, next order of business, under miscellaneous, we have an invoice from Solicitor John Finnerty's first quarter. The amount is $2,232.50, and that has been itemized in our packet. I was able to review that, and I didn't take any exception to what I saw. We appreciate you, John, so thank you for getting that in timely.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve it. I looked it over also.
Okay, there's a
Second.
motion, second, excellent, all in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Is there any other discussion items on the table?
Not that I remember.
I would just like.
Dottie, have anything?
I would just like to get a clarification or find a process whereby the language regarding city council and HARB sort of mandates us to do something
Yes,
against our, the way it stands.
Yes.
Against our wishes, And I don't know the process. I know we've discussed different processes of timeliness of getting things in.
Right.
But how we would amend the process as is indicated in the city code.
John, is that a
Yeah.
conversation that you would initiate with the law department?
Yeah, I've already been in touch with them regarding a few modifications to the code that we had discussed here over the last couple of months. So I had submitted that to the law department, I believe back in the beginning of April, and my understanding is that they haven't acted on that as of yet. Andrew Cotillo told me they were kind of looking at some other things, and they wanted to kind of do it as more of a comprehensive thing. So certainly, I can go back to them with Conrad's comments and ask that that be included as well. I mean, based on what I've heard here tonight, it certainly appears that the board would like to have more finality in their decisions and more discretion when something comes back here. So, I can certainly convey that, but ultimately it's up to city council as to how those amendments may be worded and, passed. But I can certainly express
Because
express
I
that.
understand that, we do not make the final decision and council does, and while I might not agree with that, I understand it, but I do take issue with our hand being forced to agree with council, and this very much felt like our hand was forced.
I would also like to have notice of, and I'm sure there was notice that it was going to be appealed, but for somebody from HARB to appear in defense of our position when it's scheduled to come before city council.
Yes, I think it's very important that at the very least, we determine a process for us, if there are questions, to answer those, to address those. And, I know that any of us could certainly attend the meeting and participate in public comment, but I think perhaps since we are an official board, some other vehicle where we could have a little bit more back and forth communication to share information might be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, the only problem with that, Katie, possibly is, Sunshine Act
Right.
issue, where,
Right.
It probably needs to be done at a public meeting. So, I mean, certainly having a member of the board comment during city council's meeting before they vote on it, I mean, that's certainly one way to do it. Have a private meeting, I don't know that could be.
Oh, no,
No.
certainly not private.
Not
But,
private.
I mean, could we participate in a caucus with council in a public setting when a decision like this was
Oh, sure,
on the,
yeah.
right? So I think if we're able to establish.
Before every meeting?
I don't know if it's every meeting.
I'm not sure,
They did on this topic, and that came out of the council meeting.
yes.
Yeah.
I'm a little unclear on exactly how their process works, because with the school board, we review things at public committee meetings, we review things at a public work session, and then we are faced with a decision. So if this were the school board, the administration probably would have invited someone to come and discuss these points with the school board in a public setting. And I don't think we have a mechanism like that with city council.
Yeah, and on this one, because there was some communication issues between the
Right.
administration and the university as to whether they wanted to pursue it further, I mean, I think I'm the one that gave everybody on the board, I think, notice that it was going in
Right.
front of
Right,
city council. I
right.
think that was like a one-day notice,
Yes.
wasn't it?
Right.
I know it was very last minute.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we certainly would want to have more notice and time to present some kind of input on it, so they understand why HARB did what they did.
Right. And many of them professed to be supportive of historic preservation in their comments, so perhaps now is a good time for this conversation.
Agreed.
I'll reiterate a point I made to our solicitor regarding design guidelines. It is within our bylaws that we are to create design guidelines. And when this has come up in the past, it's been an issue of funding. And I don't know what needs to happen for us to pursue that, but I think it benefits not only the applicant, but also this board to have a useful document that helps clarify when something is or is not appropriate. And I don't know how to get to a place where we have design guidelines, but I think the last time that was considered, it was a cost issue.
Yes,
So
a couple of years ago.
I feel like it's through the administration that we need access to that funding to secure design guidelines, but what is the means by which we communicate that? Is that through our solicitor or?
To request funds for a study like that? Yeah, I mean, I could submit a letter to, I guess it would go up to the administration to try to start the process, yeah.
I would appreciate that, John. I think
And-
it's a long overdue. and-
Yeah, and now could be a good time, because they'll just be beginning their budgeting process.
Yeah.
Is there any, I mean, I could talk to you after the meeting, but is there any specific, like, firms or guidelines that you're kind of have in mind for this, or?
Well, most historic review boards operate off of a series of design guidelines that have been curated for that community specifically. So if you look at Bethlehem or Harrisburg or Reading or Lancaster, they all have very specific guidelines. There are consultants who work on those with you to get them up and running. So that's the cost, is to hire a consultant to come in and analyze our ordinance, our architecture, and then make recommendations to create the guidelines.
Okay.
There was, I don't remember, 6 or 7 different entities that petitioned the city to pursue guidelines back when, before the historic district was created. We did get the district approved, but the guidelines didn't follow, unfortunately. But
And I think, when you reach out to the city, it's important to say that they would be guidelines, that, because we always kind of face that people's concern that we're saying it has to be this. And I don't want the city to think that that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give people an idea of what would match what was historically here and what is already here. At least in my opinion.
well, we're still a recommending body,
Yes.
so to
Right.
recommend things that are appropriate shouldn't be rooted in our random opinions. They should be rooted in some document that coaches us.
No matter how great the opinion is.
Right.
So,
So perhaps our request is for the administration to consider a request for proposals for a service like this.
Okay.
The funding piece of it might come after that.
yeah, fair, good call.
Right, because the proposals would tell us how much money we need to spend on that project. Sure.
Would we need to vote on something like that here?
Yeah, we probably should.
Okay, so I guess that's a motion to request the city to prepare an RFP for design guidelines for the HARB,
I will make that motion.
okay?
I would second that.
It's Conrad,
And I'm in favor.
all in favor? Aye. Okay. If there's no other business, our next scheduled meeting is June 13th, 2024, here. And if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Remember.
Yeah.